Let me say a pleasant good evening and Happy New Year to UNC Senator David Nakhid, who's online. Good evening, sir.
Happy New Year to you and your family, big brother Mikee K.
Yeah,
so nice to hear from you.
So good to hear your voice again. So much is happening, very interesting times, and General, you always bring it from the ground. You said that PNM political hypocrites, Rowley, Young, and Griffith, well, I don't know what Griffith, begging for a job, are real dangers to Trinidad and Tobago democracy. Reject them all. You said that Penelope Beckles, Foster Cummins, Naya Gatsby-Dolly, and the rest of the so-called Black Caucus could cut their deals with blackface, white mask Rowley in order to satisfy the 1%. But the ground continues to rumble. When you talk about the ground, the ground itself seems to always politically sway in certain directions. And when you talk to some seasoned politicians, Senator Nakhid, they will tell you, listen, I don't know how much trust or confidence I can put into the ground, because the perception is always that the ground is easily bought out. There's some pixie dust, here it is, and they change their tune immediately. What are you seeing different now that you picked up from the ground, and what message would you like to tell them?
What we can pick up from the ground, what we can garner from all the social media coverage, if you pay attention to the ground, if you listen to the anti-Twiggy, if you listen to people in Lavantil, people in Hokata, they feel betrayed. Let me deal with that part first. They feel betrayed by this so-called jiving, shocking Foster Cummins, who always talking about black this and black church and praying and when Penelope Beckles, and I'm not carrying no beef for anybody. I'm UNC, but you have to look at I am from a PNM family and PNM community, and it's heartbreaking when you see a black woman who was poised and ready to possibly fulfill the potential that the PNM has shown in the past, but failed miserably to deliver in the likes of Rowley and Williams and even Bannon. And Rowley was an abject failure. The potential never materialized. And you're thinking, well, at least Penny might be able to bring some kind of gravitas to our people on the ground in the East-West corridor, helping both African and Indian people, communities decimated by Rowley. And then you see these so-called black men. I don't say so-called black men, Mikee K, because when it was time to stand up for their sister, all of them fall like 2 cents roti. All of them fall like some 2 cents roti. Foster Cummins and what's the next one in? LaHunt and well, don't talk about Ford and Monroe. I mean, Clown, Leonce and all of them fall up. All of them so-called black men never stood up for anything. Rowley come and rough them up for young. And my uncle and they lay it out. My uncle and them picked and they lay it out. They say, listen, they're not with that. That's why I say the ground rumbling. Don't study PNM trying to present this picture of unity and thing. The ground rumbling. When Auntie Twiggy talk about that, when my uncles and them talking about it, when Puna talking about it, they're rumbling. Not because youngers are Chinese, not because they're not told, because youngers are imps. And he pays dues, he's incompetent, useless, and they know that he represents what Rowley represented, which is the 1%. So it's nothing for black people again. And the ground, listen, one thing, my big brother Mikee K, you can't fool the ground, You're right about the ground tends to sway, and then people going, well, who sway more than Cummins on them? When time to stand up with some backbone for Penny, what do? They fall up like some old roti. Them fellas and them. Disappointment. The ground not happy with them at all. Let Foster come and show his face, go up in Laukata and tell them why he ain't support Penny. Let Ford go in Puna and tell them why he support Penny. Let Monroe go in Toka Sally Gandhi and tell the people in the crowd why they didn't support Penny. Why they fall up and just come like Sir Young to come now and help the 1% get richer and black people suffering for the next 5 years. They're not having it, Mikee K.
But
They're not having it.
Senator, let me ask you, what do you say to people who would say, listen, it's always been that way. I mean, it's always about towing the party line. It's never about you know, trying to outshine or trying to circumvent what the party's heads would have as far as this is what we have to do. This has been outlined. I want you to support this. I mean, really and truly, it's very rare that you would see certain individuals break rank and say, listen, this is what's best for Trinidad and Tobago. And so this is no surprise. Why would you think that it would make any different now?
Because they weren't the ones breaking rank. If you look at the Constitution, if you look at the process that should have been followed, it was Rowley and Young who broke out. Mikee K, you see, we're looking at it in the wrong way. They were adhering to how things were supposed to go. All of them, Jennifer Baptiste and Robert Lahan, and first, they were adhering to how the process should have been followed. It was Rowley and Young who would ring the population, especially PNM supporters, cancel the convention, cancel because they knew Young was going to get licked up. And now they come now and foist this fella as the next prime minister, and the ground knows, especially PNM ground, knows that they have been hoodwinked, they have been conned. I call Rowley and Young the two biggest conmen this country has ever seen.
Yeah,
you cannot say. Go ahead, big brother.
Yeah, one of the things you said is that the PNM has once again betrayed their PNM constituencies in the worst way. And you said it has nothing to do with Mr. Young's ethnicity, but it's a fact that he simply cannot deliver. I had veteran journalist Ken Ali on before you, and I asked him, I said, no, what's going to be different now with Mr. Young? He has a lot on his plate to begin with. When you look at the economy, the Forex challenge, poor infrastructure, the list goes on. We've lived it for the past 9 years. He's been there, part and parcel with it. What can we expect that is going to be different now?
Absolutely nothing. They can expect it to be worse. Young, because you see, Young has an arrogance that it's an attempt by him to match Rowley. Now he is so ensconced in the bosom of the 1%. That's why they put him there in the first place. I mean, Rowley could come and offer the country, but Rowley still takes his orders from people that we know put him there. And 91%. And these Syrian contractors who have cuddled Rowley, made him go against Patrick Manning in the worst way, in the most crass and vulgar way, to protect their interests. They put Young to do the same. Because, listen, these 1% people, they pay attention to the ground more than nothing. They know that Penelope Beckers, although she is part of the PNM, she will have a certain connection to the ground that none of them has. None of them have, including Rowley and Hines and all them blackface white mask people. She has a connection to the ground, and she would have been fundamentally this. Remember, she's a Mennonite. Penelope Beckers a Mennonite. No, I mean, nobody can't tell anybody working for the PNM. Every day in our house, it was only PNM talk about all the intricacies. When Eric Williams needed something from Uncle Rudolph, it's up the hill he come in. And I looking on from my grandmother's house when he walking up Tanti George's stairs. I know what's going on, so I know exactly what he's thinking. I am on the ground, and I know that the PNM, the ground, they're not happy. They mightn't say anything, but you will see how that will reflect itself come a general election.
You talk about the fact of the 1% and that economic control. And the thing about it is that I don't want to just simply glide over that. I think the time has come that I think the electorate needs to have a comprehensive breakdown of the whole operations that take place here, especially in our economy. So that I need to ask the question, I mean, when you make these statements, don't you think it needs to be more in depth and coming from the UNC to explain Now, for many years, the electorate has been in the dark. Many would say 1% in passing, and not even understanding that that's not just an ethnicity. These are men and women who are engineered and driven by greed, who believe it is their God-given right to get everything, whether they invest in a campaign, whether they invest in a certain candidate, they are going to ask for something in return. And are we doing enough to educate the electorate to understand that you have the freedom to go out there and vote, but at the same time, someone is pulling the strings when it comes to getting preferential treatment that you may never get?
Well, there's a saying, Brother Mike. Is it truly a democracy when your vote, no matter how you vote, doesn't count? And that is what the PNM is trying to do. And let me break it down. I love how you went into that. Does the public really understand when they talk about the 1%? Let me explain for them. Especially the 1% that we have at present. Back in the day of Eric Williams, the PNM party, was engineered and constructed in such a way that what the people we now call 1%, this is comprised mainly of certain, and I don't want my Syrian brothers and sisters to think I talk about the whole community. There's some in that community. We have to address it frontally, as you said, and we cannot keep talking, as we say in Arabic, behind our hands. We have to talk about it frontally. The 1%, and it's not us saying this, no, Brother Mikey. They said it thinking internationally, thinking nobody was listening in Trinidad and Tobago. They said to Anthony Bourdain, we are the 1%, we control the economy. And we have this and we have that. They were both saying because they're talking to a white man. So they open up their hearts. And they spoke what they spoke. So I'm not saying something you have invented, Mikey.
Right.
Brother Mikey, or me. They said it. We control the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We live nice. Trinidad has been good to us. But let me tell you how Trinidad has been good to us. Because my father and grandfather are Lebanese. Let me tell you how Trinidad has been good to them. They came here, like every other immigrant, and they worked hard. They became middle class, okay. At some point in time, with Eric Williams used members of that community as his bagmen. Nobody can tell me about that. I know some of them who had to leave Trinidad to go and go Central America. So when PNM talking about UNC, I could call names, which I wouldn't call now. Because I know their family. They were bagmen under Williams. Subsequently, when some of them in that community went into the illicit drug trade, look at the Scott Drug report. If you think it's Nakhid talking, no. They became richer than the PNM, than the government. And they moved from being bagmen of the PNM to financiers of the PNM. Financiers of the PNM mean they began to control the PNM. And that is a fact. And that's very important, that evolution. Under Williams, under Chambers, and Marin tried to stop it a little bit by Kolahat, but they too had control of Marin to extent. So when Marin had Kolahat, brought somebody else in, what they do? They summon the barking dog, Rowley, to mash up Marin. No, nothing I'm telling you here is speculation. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Look at the evolution of some in that Syrian community. Look at the evolution of their money. Without inventing anything, they went in 20 years from being middle class to billionaires. Without inventing a thing. I can't remember if they invent something with Microsoft or Apple. I don't think so. You don't go from middle class from selling clothes or having business, from being middle class to billionaires in 20 years, and come and tell me, David Nakhid, about you work hard and by shutting your brow and be jealous, and you could tell your other people in Trinidad and Tobago. You can't tell me that. I know how people become billionaires. It ain't do 20 years unless you invent something. Unless it's some kind of, other than that, it's some kind of funny money. And there's a little brief synopsis for the people to understand when you like 1%. And it's not only them, it's some in the French Creole community as well. You'll find very few African or Indians belong to that class. They control The
Yeah.
PNM right now, look at the ones who, look at the one, let me tell you something.
Go ahead, Senator.
There's a saying in politics, Brother Mikey. The people that you cannot speak about in a country are the people who control that country. I don't know if you ever heard that.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, yes.
We cannot say anything about that community as we try to grapple with our existence and evolution. We cannot say anything without it jumping out. Without people protecting them jumping out who are not even in that community. Because they know what they're doing. But I am the one who will come and say it. And I can speak about them even more in depth and call more names without fear of a lawsuit. Because I know the whole history.
Yeah.
And I know it because when I lived in Lebanon, it was told to me by someone in the secret service there. And I'm telling you.
And my thing, Senator, is that, again, I think that there needs to be more sort of an aggressive communication process, so the electorate can understand that. I think the more we educate the electorate and let the electorate understand and give them whether it be a virtual walkthrough of how things operate, how things go, so they can get a sense of empowerment. Because again, a lot of these things are said in passing. A lot of it is simply in transition, with people not understanding exactly what it is that takes place. They go out there, they vote, but at the end of it all, where's their piece of pie? Where's that little niche that they carve out for themselves? And as I was telling journalist Ken Ali, that the average man doesn't care where the elite lives or what car he drives or where he vacations, as long as he gets his. That's all that matters. Now, what he's supposed to get is under threat. Seriously under threat. It's not like before. I mean, we've had PNM administrations before where there was a sense or a perceived balance, social balance. That's gone. It's basically everything for one group and there's nothing left for anyone else. And that is the reality. How then do we educate the rest of the country to understand that your sense of belonging, your sense of being a citizen is something that you must go after because it's yours? You shouldn't feel left out. You shouldn't feel isolated when everyone else believes that their God-given right to own everything.
And that is the point right there, Brother Mikey. That is the point right there. Right now, the situation as we, so when you said about why I think you're alluding to why they are not seeing it. Well,
Yeah.
yes, they're not only seeing it right now, they're feeling it. Everybody right now, other than the 1%, they're feeling it. I don't care what they say. All these so-called petty bourgeoisie African who always supporting PNM, they're feeling it.
I agree with you. I think that's the best answer. The fact of the matter is that you're feeling that strain, you're feeling that pain, you're feeling the fact that whatever you had, whether it be your savings account that's depleted, you're feeling it, but you still lack the understanding of the genesis of that pain.
Yes, because I know one or two things. Some of the petty bourgeoisie who like to be African for a day, like Sasa Kamal and them, and somebody tell me today, a fella from Laokita, my brother, he tell me, my brother from Laokita, he tell me they're African for a day, so Sasa Kamal and them, see them just all in African garb, right? But when it's time to vote for Penny, they take off the African garb and put on the PNM rope. Mash up the girl, she probably in a depression right now, and now come back. It's the same thing. That is what our petty bourgeoisie, they do. Because they don't care about anybody except themselves. They don't care. I always say they don't look towards the hills and see the suffering. They don't look towards the ground in Kukarik and in Bagatelle and see the suffering. They don't care. As long as they can get a nice little car to drive, they're on a board and things and PNM, that's it. But that is why we, Mikey, that is the gap and the vacuum we have to step in. The work you do, the work I do, to try and educate them. So I could keep telling them, look at your condition. Don't study when the petty bourgeoisie start to raise bait and tell you about PNM is black. What black? I think more than ever right now, Brother Mikey, as you just said, the ground has realized that the PNM has deserted them. The PNM has deserted the ground. more than ever, they see it now. Frontally, they see it right now. Writ large, the PNM has deserted them and left them on their own. They rather less. PNM in a real mess right now, Mike. No matter what they say. That disconnect between the ground and the hierarchy of the PNM has never been so wide. Never been so wide. And we have to step in that gap and let the PNM supporters know that they listen. The UNC, not on this African Indian thing, everybody have a base in Trinidad. Every party have some kind of base in Trinidad today. That's the problem. The problem is, will your policies and programs help everyone that's supposed to create that social balance that you are talking about? That we used to feel, no matter who was there, we used to feel was there. Now we know for sure it's not there. That's why you have so much crime. There's an imbalance in the society that the people are feeling and suffering, and they know that rowdy and young is not the solution. They know that for sure, and that is why the ground is rumbling. That is why I said that.
Thank you.
And let me go to the first point. And here comes this narcissist who only looking for work, who I don't know why people give him the time. He have about 5 people in the party. Shameless. His own party could say something about Young 2 days ago and then come back and say he's a leader. When he talk about he used to question Young, he come back and say Young, he never see nothing to question. You know, Gary Griffith is one of those people who lie so much he forget his lies. This is a man who I saw talk about people falling off a chair and come and try and say now, backtrack and say he never said that. You know, when the whole world know that Gary Griffith, who called black people children cockroaches, you believe that? A commissioner of police called black people children and Tobago cockroaches. You think I could ever forget that? Who are you talking about? You talking about my mother's family? You talking about my mother's side family? You feel I could forget that? Boy, no, brother Mikee K, fire burn Gary Griffith, boy. Fire burn Gary Griffith. And Twiggy and them come out and say that today.
Senator, I want to thank you so much again for taking time out, linking with us here this evening. Best of luck as we move forward. We'll be checking in with you periodically. We have a lot to discuss, and I want to expand on this topic so the electorate can understand. I think it's our responsibility to let them know exactly what happens behind the scenes and the genesis of their pain and suffering, and why, when all of the negotiations take place, we as citizens are never invited to the political buffet. And the time for that has to end. Thank you so much again.
Wonderful. Thank you, big brother Mikee K. Take care. God bless.